Hello, YouTube viewers. Welcome to my show, Camera Tuesday, episode number 3, where we're going to take a look into interchangeable lenses. So, in my last episode, I mentioned that the reason DSLRs became so popular is because they had interchangeable lenses and which allowed them to become a right tool for the right job. Now, you must understand lens plays a very important role in that. So, you must understand lens is a sort of ecosystem. So your camera, let's say it's a Nikon or Canon, cannot accept a lens for each other. You cannot put a Canon lens in Nikon or a Nikon lens on a Canon. You can do that with adapters, but they are not very reliable. Autofocus is, well, flat out unusable, and forget about vibration compensation. So you have to understand all the lens system is a ecosystem sort of scenario where you have to understand you can't just mishmash products, so you have to choose it very carefully. Second, no two systems are alike. Like there are systems that are specifically designed for movie shooting. There are lenses that are designed for portable cameras, like this failed Samsung interchangeable lens camera series, where they are only aiming for uh, portable market. So no two system is alike, and you must understand this. Please choose your lenses before you buy a camera. Now, how can you do that very effectively? Very simple. Know what you want to do. Like, let's say sports photography is big for you, and like you really want to get into sports photography. Check whether the camera manufacturer has the lens for it or not, and that's a very good indication. Please choose the lens first and then move on. So now we're gonna take a look into how to make that decision, how to choose which lens system we have to buy. So then the question becomes what to look for. First, you have to understand if a system, lens system like Canon mount systems are old, they are doing something right to be old. Like you cannot be old in this day and age of competition. You have to be doing something right. So if you find a lens system that is going on for 50 years, that is doing something good. So Nikon and Canon, they are quite famous and popular, and for good reasons. They deliver what they promise. And you also have to understand price, variability, and availability matters a lot. So let's say you ended up with a system that satisfies your need, let's say Panasonic, but the lenses are more expensive, and you are like, this lens I can't buy or can't afford. You are back to square one. That's why pay attention to price. Nobody has infinite budget, so price matters. Second is variety of the lenses that are available. In simplest sense, do they have prime lenses? Do they have zoom lenses? Do they have enough lens variety that it can fulfill all the niche that you could in future desire to buy? Like let's say, do you want 70 to 200 f 2.8 lens? Does Fuji has that or not? So before you jump into this, please make sure after you check the price, please check whether there are enough lenses available or not. Now availability I am mentioning very specifically because you might find it's not available in your region. So like Nikons have, let's say, 70 to 80 lenses. In India I can barely buy 20 or 25 of them. So availability is region based, so please double check. And third party support is also quite crucial for your mount system. So let's say there is enough third party interest, that means you're gonna have some lenses that suit your need. So few lenses that comes to mind: Zeiss, Tamron, and Sigma. These three there are others also, undeniably so, but these three are the big games, specifically Sigma and Tamron. So if you can buy lenses for from these manufacturers for your mount, you are generally in good hands. So one thing you have to ask yourself, what is the use? Now I have divided this category for ease of understanding. You have photography, you have TV or documentary, and then you have cinema. So is there a difference in them? Yes, most definitely there are. Now be mindful, all three can do each other's job. Now the reason why I have divided them, because they are very well suited for the task. Like let's say, have a look into photography lens. Photography lens are generally designed for speed. They are very quick. That's why rotation of their lens elements are very little. You only rotate to 45 degree and it goes through all its focus range. It's designed to be very quick because understand this, as a photographer, you don't have the time to go back and forth. You want it to be quick, like as little movement as possible, and you want the job done. And because of that, they also remove the ability to zoom. So the millimeter aspect of your lens cannot change electronically in most photography lenses. So you have to twist the lens. Now, in documentary or TV scenario, you don't have that luxury. Your camera might be much bigger or heavier, or even if it's not, let's say you mounted it on a small camera, can you afford the luxury to, like, you're gonna twist it? Like this lens that is 17 to 120, you're not gonna twist it. Like, let's say an event is happening, you're not gonna twist it, keep twisting it until you reach it. So you need quick, fast actions. So generally documentary and TV cameras come with motorized zoom, and they have autofocus, and they try to be as quick as possible in every regard. They have electronic control for almost everything. Now we come to the cream of the crop, so to say, cinema lenses. These lenses are, let's just say, it costs more than your arm, leg, eye, and everything. These are the most expensive lens that you can buy. The reason why cinema lenses are so expensive has to do with the fact they are generally a part of a set. You don't buy one cinema lens, you have to buy a whole kit. You can rent one or two lenses, but generally they are sold in kits, and they are color matched to each other. So one lens will not change the color to another lens in that set. And everything in that lens is manual. There is no autofocus, there is no motorized zoom. Almost every function of that lens is manual. So it takes a lot of time. But in a movie industry where you have a camera person dedicated to handling the camera, this is a luxury that people can afford. And this also increases the cost. They know that rich people are buying it, so they don't have incentive to make it cheap. So we have to now look at types of lenses. There are only two types for this presentation: prime lenses and zoom lenses. So prime lenses have better transmission, basically because they have less glass in it. If, let's say, 100 watts of light is coming into the lens, almost 95 watts will get to your sensor. But if you have a zoom lens, even with the same f-stop, like f2.8, you will have a scenario where 100 watts of light is there, but only 80 watt is getting, not 95. So that's why I am saying prime lenses generally have better t-stop ratings. Second, they have zero to no distortion. Now this depends on the manufacturer. If they are doing their job correctly, this will not have any distortion, where you notice the things look bulged out, or pin cushioned in, like it's pinching. So this sort of things are not any issue in prime lenses. They are generally cheap, and they are also light. So with all this many benefit, you might wonder why somebody would wanna buy zoom lenses. Very simple reason: they are convenient. You can't, let's say you go into a zoo, you can't go closer to a lion, you can't go closer to a bird, or to take a photo. A zoom lens gives you convenient on every front, where you can compose your scene more comfortably, where you are like, okay, I think 200 millimeter is not cutting it, let's make it like 250, 200, something. You have a lot of leeway and freedom. So convenient is a very big and important reason why these lenses are even made. So now you have decided the lens. Now we have to look at the numbers. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of detail. All you have to understand is millimeter describes the field of view. How wide or narrow is your field of view, how much you are looking at. So higher the number, lower the field of view, the tighter basically you are focusing. So 300 millimeter has 8 degree in a full frame sensor, and if you have 24 millimeter, that has 84 degrees. So you are capturing much wider. But if you want to like zoom in into something, you want narrow field of view. So that's all you have to understand. Millimeter just describes how wide or narrow your field of view is. Then we come into f-stops. All you have to understand about the f-stop is changes the depth of your field of view. Now what that means, in simplest term, how much separation you will have between your focus and out of focus areas. So if your depth of field is very, very, very shallow, then you will have a scenario where, let's say I'm in focus, everything behind me is out of focus. So that's the purpose of f-stops. Bigger number is generally better. However, you do lose bit of sharpness, so you can't go like f1.4 and expect very sharp images. And there is one another thing you have to pay attention to. It's not necessary, but it's good to know, is t-stop is also there, which is below this number. So let's say you have lens of 1.4, the t-stop will be like, let's say 1.8 or 1.9. Because no glass is 100% transparent, they lose some light. How much light they have lost is calculated by transmission value. That's why cinema lenses are always rated in transmission rather than aperture. And so these are the three main core factors of lenses. Nothing fancy, it's just millimeter, aperture and t-stop, and you can ignore t-stop. Unless you are comparing two identical lenses, that's how you can tell the difference. Now, there are a lot of bells and whistles in this industry, and there are some very useful bells and whistles like image stabilization. Suffice to say, without it, you're gonna learn that photography is not for everyone. It requires a very steady hand, and image stabilization makes our life much easier. Then we have fast and silent autofocus. Almost every camera nowadays have autofocus, but not everyone has Nano USM, which is the best I have tested so far. And it's quiet, so I can use it in video. It's very fast, so I am not spending time to focus and all that. So silent and fast autofocus is a key feature nowadays. And you can also have external features like tripod, foot and collar, basically this sort of attachment, which allows you to mount a very heavy lens to your tripod without unbalancing it. It's a safety feature, because if you mount it based on your camera body, the mount might break, because the lenses are telephoto lens specifically can be very heavy. I'm talking 3 to 5 kgs. So generally tripod foot or collar is used. Foot simply does not allow you to rotate, collar does allow you to rotate. So that's there. And weather sealing is also done nowadays in some lenses. Be mindful, you need a camera that supports it. If your camera is not weather sealed and you buy a weather sealed lens, it's no use. So these are the some bells and whistles. Now we come up to the most dreaded part of photography, the crop factor. So in simplest sense, get a full frame, don't worry about it. Now let's say you can't afford full frame. Just remember one thing, everybody tells you the millimeter rating of the lens, which is almost all the time correct. However, where they screw over the customer is they say aperture number, the f-stop, so to say, without dividing it, without multiplying it with the crop factor. That's all you have to remember. So let's say, for instance, my camera has f2.8 lens. Is it f2.8? No. Why? Because my sensor is APS-C. So I'm getting effectively f4 lens. So be mindful of this sort of thing. You buy a lens that says like f2.8 and it is a full frame lens. You mount it in a cropped sensor, you're still getting f4. So this is the reason why you don't see sports photographer using cheap lenses and all that, and specifically cheap APS-C sensor or one type sensor, because you must have noticed like nowadays you get a ludicrous range in small cameras. Then why they are not using it? Simply because aperture is also getting multiplied. So not only your shallow depth of field is gone, the amount of light is directly proportional to the surface area. So this surface area might not look that much different, but you are talking about 30 to 50% loss and 80% loss when you go to this much area. So suffice to say, try, if you can afford it, please go for full frame or APS-C. Do not go down to 1-inch sensors. I have someone who did that, and suffice to say, it's not a good idea. Be mindful. Crop sensor, please multiply that crop factor with your aperture also, please. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked it and learned something from it. If you liked it, please like. If you didn't like, please dislike, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you're free, press the bell icon. I'll see you next Tuesday in the episode of Camera Tuesday. Bye.